Welcome to Successful Parenting, where we, Jackie Rue and Robin Choquette, share practical skills for families to build resilience and healthy connections. As practicing professionals and parents ourselves, we hope this podcast is a resource for parents to grow, reflect, and learn more about themselves and their children. Our approach is simple, tangible, and most importantly, we lead with compassion for the integrity of the families we serve. This podcast should not be taken as medical advice and is intended for informational purposes only. We love our work and we can't wait to watch families gain confidence and open themselves up to new ways of successful parenting. Jackie, it's August.
Robin, how are you doing today? I know, I think this summer in particular, the summer just flew.
Yeah. It seems like July the 4th, when that weekend happens, and I hear parents say this all the time, it seems like it flies right into school as soon as you hit after July the 4th. And I can't believe it's here and everyone's getting prepared and doing school shopping and all the excitement is in the air. Do you remember several years ago, I can't remember if it was Office Depot or some store had the holiday song, It's My Favorite Time of the Year, and they would have parents like singing and dancing and riding carts around of being so excited that the kids are going back to school. I always love that commercial.
Well, and it was funny, Robin, right? Because I think, it's, TV and social media always depicts this. It's so wonderful. It's this time of year. And I think the reality is for many children and families, this time of year can promote some anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Some uneasiness. The last couple of years have been anything other than the norm. And I think for a lot of children and families we see, their uneasiness and anxiety starts to spike this time of year.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to acknowledge that for, the families and then also for the kiddos going back to school. Like this is very normal. This is what happens and it actually should happen, right? Because that's what anxiety is designed to do, or we should be a little bit uncomfortable when we face something new or we face something different. So almost embracing that and allowing our children to know that's normal and that's okay.
I love that you said that, Robin. And I love when you talk about, every child has strengths, every child has areas where they struggle. And for many children, it's about confidence. And I think, I know you and I sometimes use this worksheet and it lists all different situations that can cause children and parents to be uneasy. Some of the examples are, meeting a new friend, being in a new class, being in a class with someone that you don't get along with, having a teacher that doesn't like you or that you don't like them, doing well in school and so on. And so often when we break it down with children, it comes down to they lack confidence that they can handle some of these situations. And so I love when you and I get together with groups of kids and we practice those situations that kids are worried that they're not going to be able to manage, and we watch them get so excited when they see that they can tackle those things that are difficult for them.
Being able to overcome and being able to push through, or even if it doesn't turn out the way they had expected or wanted it, but they tried it. And I remember that was always the cool part when we would do those things with the kids, just that they had the courage to do it. And that's going back to what you're saying, is the confidence of doing it. It's not always about getting the perfect outcome.
100%. And I think, as I say to some of the teens I work with, I want you to try things. I want you to make mistakes. I want you to come back to me with situations that went really well. But I also want you to come back to me with situations that you fell on your face or they didn't work out, because I get excited when kids are trying things and realizing they can handle situations even when they don't work out.
Yeah, so true. But now so that's when we're in the therapist role. Now let's step into being the parent role, right? When you're wearing those shoes of the parent, that's a lot harder to watch your kid struggle and not be able to be successful in what they wanted. Not always success, but having the outcome that they want. That's so much more difficult.
Yeah, and I think and that's real, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's as parents, I think we care so much about our children. I've never met a parent that doesn't want their child to be successful, to be happy, to be healthy. I can relate, we're both parents. I can relate with my own children. It can trigger my own anxiety when my children are struggling.
And that can really ramp up, and then we start reacting to that. You've got some of those parents, like when they get really anxious, they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. That's how they react.
Well, that's
That's
so
how
true.
it
And I'm sure
manifests.
my kids would say that was me, or, either talking or, are you okay? Are you okay? What's going on? And a lot of times when I reflect on when I'm anxious or emotional, I'm not in a clear mind space to really even have rational conversations. So I love when I see, as parents, we try to talk our children out of anxiety, and we know it's not really helpful, because typically when our children are emotional or we're emotional, it doesn't lean in for a lot of really rational conversations.
Right. And usually we're reacting not to the situation per se, we're reacting to what's going on inside of us and how we usually manage that. And those problem solvers, I mean, they go right into problem solving. They go right in to telling, here's a great thing to do. Have you thought about this? Da, 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 da. And give a lot of great examples, which I think is really wonderful. But when you talk to parents about what their goal is, most parents are going to say, I want this independent, responsible, accountable child. And then when we look and we reflect back, is if I'm always giving them the answer, am I setting them up to be able to develop those skill sets? Am I setting them up to be able to manage when it gets difficult, or am I making them more reliant on me or someone else?
Right, right. Yeah, 100%. And so, this time of year, I think, just if you have a child, and if parents are listening, and sometimes children struggle at the beginning of the year, and sometimes they can do okay at the beginning of the year, but then many parents will tell me they struggle on Mondays, or they struggle when they get behind with work, or whatever that looks like. Every child's going to have areas where they struggle, so just to be mindful of that, right? Be mindful of, we know this about my child. We know that the
Mm-hmm.
child maybe gets nervous in social situations, or has a hard time asking for help. We encourage parents on a regular basis to practice those areas, practice those skills that your child might struggle with.
Yeah, and setting them up for, how would you handle that? Let's think about 3 things that may be difficult for you at the beginning of the school year. Let's come up with some suggestions or thoughts about how you can handle it. I love that. I love that practicing, Jackie. I think that is a great kind of way to get prepared.
Well, and this about me, but I used to be terrified of public speaking. It was probably my biggest source of anxiety, and I remember as a child not wanting to go to school on days where there was presentations, or I would feel physically sick, and it really was about, for me, embracing the notion that I could be okay not being okay, and I could tolerate not doing a good job, and I could tolerate criticism from others, because the only way for me to get better and more comfortable was just to continue to do it. And
Mhm.
what I found is, it took me a while, but after about, like 50 presentations, and I will say it was like about 50, I became very comfortable with it, to the point that I really don't experience much anxiety at all about presenting, even in crowds of up to 1,000 people. But it really did take a lot of work. And I think for a lot of our kids, just normalizing, it does take work to get better and gain confidence, but we have to allow, just allow the kids space to struggle and to fall down.
Yeah. And there is where I think as parents, we need to kind of step back and go, okay, what's our plan? What's our goal? What are we trying to do here? And I know, as busy as parents are, I know it's not always easy, but kind of taking that moment, the first thing in the morning, to kind of revisit that, like, what are we trying to do, and setting yourself up to be able to create an environment that you're leaning in towards those goals. You're leaning and you're responding in a way that helps that child to move into taking those chances, being able to push through when it's difficult.
And I think, like you said, new things cause most of us anxiety.
Hmm.
Getting those class schedules. I remember, many kids and my own kids, it would cause so much excitement, but also it could cause uneasiness when you realize you're not with anyone or you're not with your friends, or you're with kids that maybe you don't have a good relationship with, or a teacher that you've heard is not the nicest. Sometimes we predict how things are going to go, and really it is about like looking at, okay, no matter what happens, and I always say to kids, no matter what happens, I have faith you can manage it. And I love when we talk to kids and say, this might be really challenging for you, but I think you can handle it. What are things you can do if it gets really tough?
Yeah, I love that. I have faith in you. I have faith in you. I think sometimes that small phrase is so beneficial.
100%. And kids, I think the reality is it takes a couple weeks to start to ease into school for most students. So you might expect to see, and I see this every time in the morning around this in the beginning of the year. I see children crying in the car and having a hard time going into the building, and I see parents having a hard time separating. I see some kids frankly trying to refuse to go to school. And so this does happen for a lot of families. I think we don't always realize how common it is when we're in it, but it is pretty prevalent. And so just keeping in mind that it does take a couple minutes, and really, not getting too emotional, kind of stating the expectations can help our children move through it.
Right. And as you said, if it gets, it's getting bigger and it's becoming more overwhelming, start looking for, the supports that you have, the school systems. You may need to seek out therapy. You may need to find someone to help you with kind of creating a plan and some strategies, and just to get the help that you need and your child need if this seems to be much bigger and it's not kind of working itself out as the weeks are going on.
For sure. And there's a lot of resources out there today. This is such a common issue that we're seeing, and partnering with the school and talking to them about ways that they can really start to be that champion for the child at school. And the more that child develops a relationship with the champion at school, the better they're going to feel. And sometimes, we see kids of all ages, and some kids have cell phones and watches at school, and they will text their families throughout the day. This can be a challenging one, but, Robin, I don't know how you feel about this, but I always encourage parents to say, we're not going to be answering you or talking to you while you're at school. Who could you go to at school if you need something? And if they feel that I need to be involved, they will reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is because I think the texting during the day is actually in the long run going to be make it more difficult for the child.
Right. And if you do have a child that you feel like you do want to text, I would add that I can't always respond, and you need to have that backup. If you're not going to set that I will not respond to you, at least that I will not always be able because I have whatever I'm doing, and set that up and let the child know that, so that the child does have those resources and creates those resources right at school.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure. Yeah, it's always an adjustment. It's always an adjustment, whether you're starting a new school, a new grade, a new district. Change can be hard, but I always reflect on the fact that we've all been through changes, and it's during changes and difficult times that sometimes that's how we gain confidence for the next situation that's going to come.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're wrapping it up. What do you think, Jackie?
Definitely. I think in the next episode, we'll go through on specific interventions and strategies to support students and kiddos dealing with anxiety and difficulties going to school.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Bye, Jackie.
Have a great weekend, Robin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us, and make sure to subscribe and like us to catch our next episode, where we will take you on a journey to find new ways of successful parenting.